Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. We have a letter that came in today to customer service. This one comes from Larry Sandor, and Larry says, recently I have discovered that my feet were always open to the target. I didn't realize why I was always fighting my backswing. I lined up open but tried to take away down the target line and had trouble swinging down and through the ball to a follow through, which for me usually results in getting stuck and then pull hooking. I think by getting stuck he means he's getting stuck behind his body, and then the club comes through. You end up flipping the club trying to pull it around the body, and you get your duck hooks or pull hooks. Larry goes on to say, now I work hard on my alignment. Using the tip of finding a spot 5 or 10 yards in front of the ball on the target line, that we're going to talk about in a minute. 5 or 10 yards is way too far out there. All right, that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. I know I've never said 5 to 10 yards. I'm always talking 2 to 3 feet max. All right, some people might use yards, but I'm going to cover that in a minute, and so you'll see. So it's one of the first things I'll start off on. 5 to 10 yards is way too much out there, and it's going to cause you big time problems, and I'll show you in a minute. All right, and then he says he gets the yards in front of the ball on the target line. Then lining up to that does not work well for me. When I get over the ball, my perception of that spot is always left for me. Why, I don't know. I'll explain that. And again, part of that comes to why we're not going to use yards. We're going to use feet at the most. What I often do is stand behind the line parallel left of the target line. Then I put my toes on that line. Thus my feet are parallel left of the target line. I am still working hard on my alignment. It is not easy to change my perceptions, and I don't want to overdo it and start lining up close to the target. Thanks, Larry Sandor. Okay, Larry, at least I'm happy to hear that you're getting involved with alignment being a very important issue here. All right, let me get the alignment arrows out. Okay, so I have my crossbar here, and I had these made up so that they can guarantee that we're in right angles. The little slots here fit right in. I'm going to set this up. I know this is about the width that they are for my 7-iron. I'm going to try to make this aim at the target. The target being the camera. Okay? Now, right now I think we're pretty much just about spot on to the camera. Aiming line. Larry mentioned 5 to 10 yards in front. Well, if we were to take a couple tees and I can put one right here in that little spot there, and I'll put one, say, right over here about 1 inch to the right. I do this at golf schools all the time. I put a ball back here on the end of the arrow. Now these arrows are 3 feet long. I always stand back here and I say, okay, you can do this test yourself. This is a straight line, so I know that arrow, that tee should be at the target. You notice a lot of guys on tour are doing this now. They're coming behind you, checking their spots. It's real easy to stand back here, especially on perfect grass out in front of you, and have trouble finding a spot, and your eye just goes to something that sticks out at you, and your eye finds it and looks really quick, and you say, yep, that's on the target. But if you do this many times, it's gonna really blow your mind how off that thing could be. But here's why you got to be specific. It's obvious that this ball through that tee, which is in the end of stuck in the hole on the end of the arrow, which is there for the sake of, you could stick a tee through it into the ground on both ends to hold this in place so it wouldn't move on you. Go straight through the target. Now if you stand back here and draw a line from the center of that ball through this tee to the right, it goes out to the right. All right, and I do this every school, and this really boggles a lot of people's minds because they can't believe how far the problem is right here. Generally speaking, a spot 3 feet in front of the ball, 1 inch off, will fan or flare out a minimum of 10 yards every 100 yards. I'll say that again. It'll fan or flare out 10 yards every 100 yards. So that means if you're hitting a 150-yard shot and you're 1 inch off on your spot, 3 feet out there, and you sign up parallel left of that spot, of that line, instead of that spot on that line, and hit a perfectly straight shot, you're a minimum of 15 yards to the right of the target. All right, so if you're going at a right center pin, you've got a good chance you're in a bunker there, and that just keeps exponentially getting bigger as the shot goes farther. You get more club and the ball goes farther. So we have to be extremely precise in doing this, in checking out your spots. Now the problem, as Larry says, and he says, when I get over the ball, my perception of that spot is always left for me. That's because when you stand here, your eyes peer inward to a central point. They call that the focal field of focal triangulation, and from there they merge and they see straight out. That's standing behind the ball. But when you walk into the ball over here and you address the ball, all right, and now you're turning your head like this, your eyes are separated, right? And your front eye picks up the target sooner and therefore more on the left side of the eye than your right eye does. And if one is right eye dominant, which I am, and you're playing right-handed, that's your trailing eye, your back eye, you have to turn your head more to see it. An optical illusion happens where the line that was straight from back here is no longer straight. It's elliptically curved from right to left. It's an optical illusion. All right, and if the trailing eye, your back eye, is your dominant eye, it's going to be even bigger because this is the eye you have to turn. You have to turn your head more to see it. With this eye, to focus in on it more completely and really see it, see the target. So the line's more curved. That's why when you're watching golf tournaments and a right-handed putter has a right to left break, many times you'll hear the announcer say, "Well, he's got a better chance of making this because right-handed's putt, right to left putt's better." That's the curve we see. Okay. And so technically, because it's curving that way, we have a much greater probability of aiming to the right because it's curved outward. All right? And so there's more tendency to aim to the right. But Larry says he's seeing to the left. Well, because by the time you get way out there, and you're standing left of the ball, it depends how you might be looking at the ball. Most people are the best way to do is we're supposed to turn our head like this, up and down the line. So with my glasses on, my glasses are supposed to move like this. But what do we see many golfers do, especially if they tend to aim right? They get here and they stand like this. And so now when they turn it, they kind of lift their body out and they turn their head over there, and they turn it a little bit too much diagonal, and so they're getting a sweeping view to the left because you're turning to the target. And so therefore, I think that's another reason why you might be getting lined up parallel left. Or some people have their eyes that pull one way more or the other. I actually see to the left all the time. And so it's a situation I have, and so the thing now is you have that, you have to work a lot more diligently at practicing with spots, with arrows on the ground when you're practicing, and you have to get a lot more careful about what you're doing. I think probably one of the best things now, what I tell most students is when we step up to the ball and we have the ball over here, I'm using this for my ball line, and we line our club face up to where we want to go. I think many of us get hung up on the ball line here, and we step up to the ball, and the whole thing about is our toe line is really important to be parallel left, but yet nobody ever looks at their toes. I've told people that you can't stand up against this line, because if you did, as soon as you start standing up, you're going to push the thing off. So you have to stand 2 or 3 inches from it. And I see folks, I get them walking in, I'll break it out, and they come in here, and then they'll walk in, and it'll be something like this, and they start to swing. I say, whoa, stop. You got this one about 2.5 inches from the line, and this one's about 4.5. That means you're aimed right. And why is the aim so important? Because we shift our weight down our toes, right? And when we do the bump and we start turning, the weight is going, and our knees are driving down the line, parallel left of your aiming line. So, and yet, I see people walking here, they've had toes as much, this foot over, a foot away from the line. And this one is half the distance of that one. They never look at their toes. So I think ultimately I'm saying right now, one of the most important things is start checking out your toe line. If you got your club face square when you put it to the ground, you know it's square at that point, look one more time and check out your toes, that they're not open, it's way too close, that if you got a line on the ground, they're about the same distance. Stand here and try to run your toe line out there in the future and make sure that they're parallel left and not realistically at or right of your target. Check your toes out. I think that's probably now the most critical thing, because I've seen it lesson after lesson. Even when we're working on their toe line, students don't look at their toes and see that they're way off, and we got a line on the ground. They're not even looking to see if they're the same distance from the line. If you're going to practice with those on the ground, and if you're going to try to make those lines in your head on the ground, at least check your toe line out. I think that's where you're going to see that there's a big problem. But understand, there's an optical illusion here. Straight line from here, curve line when you're beside the ball. and it's curved from right to left for righties, left to right for lefties. And that tends to make us aim to the right for righties, left to lefties, which is what, if you hit blocks out there, if you hit it straight out there, or if you try to pull it back, you're coming over the top, and or over releasing, and you get your pulls. But check your toe line. Make sure that if you have one of these on the ground, your toes, both toes are the same distance from the line, and if that line's parallel to that one, then these toes will be, your toe line will be parallel for your weight transfer and the swing down to the target. All right, so check the toes. I think it's really important. All right, alignment's everything. It's one of the most important things. 90-95% of all swing problems arise out of alignment. So if you want to play better golf, use alignment, alignment, alignment. Don't play golf without it. That's it for the Surge for today, and I'll be talking with you all again soon.